A Long Walk Home, based on actual events in New Delhi, India, written and read by Rebecca Prophet. Once upon a time, not too long ago, there lived a boy named Sai. Sai was from a village outside of the city of Almora, India. He lived on a hill that was surrounded by giant oak and fragrant pine trees. Sai had a good childhood. He loved to help his mother gather food from the forest and chase his brothers over the rocky ridge that lay behind his small tin hut. But one day, everything changed. Their family was never quite able to grow enough food, and when mother had another baby, Sai was chosen to go to the capital city of New Delhi to work with his father. For 2 long years, Sai and his father worked in a factory making clothes. They both were in charge of scooping the ashes that came out of the boiler that was used to dye the fabrics the bright colors of purple and blue and red. At night, they returned exhausted to their small apartment that they shared with 11 other people, where they would bathe, eat, and sleep until their work began again the next day. Just when Sai thought he could live in the city forever, everything changed again. Hundreds of people started getting sick, and a few of them even died. With only 4 hours of notice, the government leaders announced that everyone in New Delhi had to stay inside their houses for 1 month. This was confusing to Sai and his father. If they stayed inside their house, how could they go to work? And if they couldn't go to work, how could they get paid? And if they couldn't get paid, how could they pay rent and eat food? Many other people realized the same thing, and so Sai and his father, along with others, packed their bags and decided to go home. After walking for several miles, they arrived at the bus station to catch a bus out of the city. But to their astonishment, there were 1 million other people who had the same idea, and there were no buses. With their packs on their heads, Sai and his father had no other choice but to begin the long journey home by walking. They walked with many other people all that day. Sai and his father walked and walked and walked. Sometimes Sai's feet were bloody with blisters from where the plastic straps of his sandals rubbed against his raw skin. The further they walked, the less people that walked with them. Some couldn't go on any further and stopped right where they were. Some turned back to the crowded city to beg, and some made it to their own country homes. At night, when it was time for bed, Sai would push his lumpy pack of belongings underneath his head and lie next to his father and fall asleep. Day after day, Sai walked, and many times he wanted to give up. But he thought of his new baby sister, who he had held only a couple times before leaving to the city, and her big brown eyes. Sai thought about their garden and his old wrinkly Nana, who would need his strong arms and cheerful spirit to help her fill the water buckets each day. Sai knew that no matter how tired or hungry he got, he could not give up. And so he kept putting one foot in front of the other, step after step, hour after hour, day after day. 11 days passed, and on the 12th day, Sai's group saw the most beautiful sight in the world. Finally, the hills and the rocks and the trees of their village were there in front of them. He and his father, as well as the other men who had been traveling with them, stopped at a nearby river and washed the filthy dirt off their clothes and faces. They slipped off their sandals and scrubbed the blood and mud from their feet, splashing in the water. Although they were desperate to get home, they didn't want anyone to know how difficult their journey had really been. They changed into clean clothes, and smelling good, they ran the last few miles to their hut. The villagers were surprised and delighted to see the men return home from the city. The villagers gathered around the group, joking and laughing and asking questions. The women served the tired travelers a huge hot meal of curry and naan bread. Sai's own brothers and mother and Nana and baby sister came out to be with them with smiles as big as the sky. Although they couldn't hug or kiss each other because of the virus, that didn't stop them from talking so long that before they knew it, darkness had settled over everyone. The men were especially tired, but they weren't allowed to sleep with their families. Luckily, the villagers had prepared a surprise for the group. Anticipating their return, the villagers had built beds high up in the trees for all the returning workers. Sai had been sad to leave the city at first, but now all the reasons he loved his village came flooding back to his mind. Sai chose the highest platform in the highest tree to sleep that night. He climbed to the top with a full stomach, a grateful heart, and a happy smile as he closed his eyes and thanked the Hindu gods that he was home again. The end.
And walking the entire way back home, carrying their children, their bags, their hopes and dreams, they are marching towards their home, helpless to do anything against combating the deadly virus.